see her face.
Yes.
Or it was wonderful to. Anyway.
Yes.
Okay. Is Brave just not gonna load now? What in the world? Well, that took a while. Come on. Maybe it's the videos that are being processed in the background. I had to catch up with Wayne Peters' shows. And that's like, well, it's a lot of work for my computer. All right, so yeah, so since yesterday at this same time, we have continued to rise, now up 3% from yesterday. It doesn't seem like much, and definitely compared to cryptos, it's a fairly small move, but it translates into a lot of money for the elites because, of course, we've been chatting about this recently, how much money they've been able to make as the price whiplashes all around every time Trump opens his mouth or Iran comes back with a Lego animation of propaganda to help people over here feel good about how they are beating back the US. Hey guys, just propaganda wars now. Think about it. They have all got their metaverses, they got to keep people subscribed, and they're just doing the best they can. But like one of the model makers, I can't remember which one it was, but there was a model maker, like a LLM maker, someone that helped train some of these models. He said that government is one of the worst context providing sources for humans. And now we know why. Japanese market's still holding out, just consolidating ever since basically, I would say, since March 18th. Saw that last rise, and it's just petering out at this point. We'll see how much longer it lasts. If I don't know, like it's just like we have no idea what they're doing, and it really doesn't matter. It's what are the people willing to accept as truth that determines what goes on. And I think that where we're headed is an energy crisis with the intention of creating energy lockdowns in oof, Holland. In Holland, if you have, they now have alternating license plates. So if you have a license plate beginning with a certain character, you can't drive this month.
Month? Month?
That's
Oh,
correct.
sorry. I thought it was like
Yeah.
every other day or something.
Oh, did they cycle it like that?
No, I
I
don't
thought
know.
it was a longer
I don't know
period.
anything about it. I think I just made that picture in my mind.
Ah,
But I couldn't
I'd have to
compute
get
what I meant.
clarification from Kim. But yeah, they're saying, well, who really cares if it's a day or a month? The fact is that they're doing it, and that is definitely of great concern. Uh, you don't never want to have a government have the power to restrict the people's movement. That's a bad news. That means that you've already lost a lot of rights prior. Like that's a huge warning sign that you're getting close to the end of your last hope. That's what that means. You better do something about that quick. Canada's not going to be far behind. I mean, it's just not going to be far behind. In North America, vehicles by the end of 2027, all vehicles are supposed to have a camera in them so they can observe the driver and evaluate based off of their biometrics whether or not they ought to be driving. And it will not allow them to start the vehicle if that proof of sobriety is not present. Well, again, I get it. You want to make the road safer, but you never put that power into the hands of someone else. because they will just make up any excuse. Oh, you look distraught. Looks to me like you're stressed. I'm not going to let you go and deal with your live birth of your son now, bitch. So, anyways, back to the Japanese markets. Maureen made it.
I made it. Hi. I'm going to be making breakfast, and I have an update on the Four Eyes Potato Club. So, but when it's right.
And I also didn't push the finish button on it, but the Potato Club is getting its own little collective in Nextcloud
Oh,
for
good.
Dragon Riders.
I am.
Yeah.
I'm assuming I'm a founding member of the Potato Club. Is this right? Because I'm not aware of any updates except in my own yard.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I
We
already did. That's awesome. That's exactly what you're supposed to do. I'll do the tech stuff. And when next time we have an opportunity and look at everybody here, like, but this is the day. I'm going to go ahead and finish that after we're done so that you guys can go ahead and get in on that. And Maureen, that means that we're going to have to hurry up and fast track Audrey Lynn into the Dragon Riders.
That's right.
Obviously, not the main core, right? But Dragon
we'll
Riders
see.
is expanding.
Let's see. Yeah, because there's other people that may be interested in, and let's see what the group says. Of course, my boundaries are. I'm always suspicious with boundary. I have difficulty with boundaries. So, sometimes they're too hard and then they're too loose. So I have to modulate. Anyway, I'm
Right.
going to start breakfast, and then when we're ready to talk about that, that's great. I've got an update, and I hope you have one too.
Well, I
Yes.
can't wait. This is going to be great. I'm just going to go ahead right now and go into next. This is the Dragon Riders Nextcloud. And we go
Wait,
into
wait,
here and we go to
wait.
collectives. Yep.
Wait, this is all happening on. Let's not do that here,
Oh, okay.
right? Because it's on YouTube, right?
Yeah, but I don't get any views. But and this is,
Thanks, Owen.
if you don't want me, that's fine. That's fine. It's not like this is a security risk though.
Well,
But
let's.
I definitely don't have to go through it.
But we could do it at the end. We could, when you're done with Monkey
That's a
Mail.
good idea. That
Sure. Okay.
covers both.
Some
That's
of it
Thank
is
you.
something I learned from a very wise man of like, I know who I am with each click that I make.
is that
Thank
Paul?
you so much.
That would be Paul. I'm getting better at that of like, oh, I'm doing this now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
A life of doing 10 things at once all the time. So yeah,
Right.
you're affecting me.
Yes. Thank
You're
you.
having
Thank you.
positive
Thank you.
impact.
I think that should be a bullet point under our group meeting, that we don't have to do everything at once, that we can actually take a moment
Yeah.
and change that, and then be thoughtful with that hat on. I love that.
Wonderful.
So it's also an awareness of what jurisdiction am I in,
Right. Exactly.
right? And for you, I think you're very comfortable in this jurisdiction, and for me, I'm more aware of it. Like we're there right now. So
Right. Yeah.
hello,
Yeah.
world. I'm waving. You
Yeah.
can't see, but I'm waving to the world. Just like when I get on Zoom, I wave to China. It's like, hey, China.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Thank you for that curb. Okay, so backwards to, let's go to the Nikkei. We just hit another all-time high. Oh, wait a minute. I think that's just a revisit. Oh, no, that is definitely all-time high. We got pressed that up against that yesterday. Actually, it was Sunday
What
night.
is this? Nike? It's not Nike, the shoe place, is it? Is it a different?
No, yeah, this is the Nike, which is the it'd be the equivalent of the New York Stock Exchange.
In Japan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yep. Another index similar to the US 30, but this one is more spread out because it's not taking the top 30 companies. It's only taking the top 225. And I don't know why they picked that number. But there we have it. Brand new highs reaching up there. US 30 still hanging out within this last little resistance zone.
Paul, can you speak to connecting the dots between that chart, the Nikkei chart or Nikkei chart, and what you're saying about the Japanese, not dollar, but whatever it is, yen? I know.
The yen, yes.
Yeah, so the fact that that's struggling and this is going up, can you say something about that? How you see that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a good sign for the Japanese yen, because the Japanese yen, the Central Bank of Japan is heavily integrated within the Asian markets. And so when we're seeing this chart here, we're looking at an index of the Asian markets that are headquartered there. And so when we take a look at the Japanese yen, we're seeing a reflection of the strength of the currency. Now, this is a reflection of the strength of the economy. The better this goes, the better it is for the Japanese dollar, or yen, against the dollar. But that when we have what's happening right now with oil, as oil goes up, that is a detriment to the Asian markets, simply because they don't produce a lot of oil. Now, you've also heard me talk about, well, China's going to be fine, and I've even thought that it might very well be that the Asian markets will be transferred to China, simply because the Japanese market, different jurisdiction, different government, different currency, and they don't have any oil. They have to import it all. So when we see the prices of oil going up, that is a detriment to the Japanese market, because now their dollar doesn't go so far anymore, because they need a lot more just to keep the energy, just to keep the lights on for their people. So the Japanese markets, while this may go up, and we may see more and more abundance here, it would be only because they're able to maintain in tech their standing. They've got other products too. They got other industries, lumber, and as a matter of fact, Japan is quite good at creating forest products. But that they need the energy from us to do a lot of the forestry. So while the Asian markets may increase, if oil gets out of hand, the Japanese yen will suffer, because they simply won't be. They'll have to print and print and print and print, inflate in order to keep up. Does that help? Does that help see the connection?
Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. Audrey Lynn, you brought up a great video a couple weeks ago about the Japanese markets as well. What did you get from that would be related?
That was just a couple of days ago. What I was getting with that is, what was I know it was last week sometime. Anyway, what struck me was that video, which and then another video talking about the solar activity and the earthquakes and how that's all affecting Japan, and just finding it very, very interesting that the planetary bodies are showing up in such a pointed way in Japan, and that Japan seems to be the linchpin for what's to come with our world economics, because, well, the imagery of Japan, it is, they call themselves the land of the rising sun. And as the sun was rising yesterday or the day before, that's when Japan was experiencing these really large earthquakes. And at and even the time of day had significance to the content creator with regards to Japan and the financials and all these sorts of things. So I'm beginning to come to the conclusion that Japan's the place to watch, and having it here is very wise.
Yes,
Was that
indeed.
what you were referencing, Paul? Because my memory's a little foggy.
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely very, very much related. When we see the disasters that occur, even in the past, when there's been a tsunami that took out Fukushima, huge detriment to the economy there. It's eh, natural disasters. They can wipe out a civilization,
Mm.
and yes, Japan is the rising sun. What happens there cascades. Absolutely. And no different. Like this happened before too. But we go back into 2008. It was the Asian markets that actually had the flutter before the markets were affected. The mortgage crisis was affected in 2008. That was like the, what do they call it? The tremors before the earthquake.
Oh, yeah.
And the video that I was thinking of, I think you shared with me some of it, where it was talking about how the bond rates in Japan, although they move by 0.25% sometimes per year, that they are heavily leveraged by or against the Asian markets, and so the drop in those bond markets is a huge detriment long term. We don't notice it the next day. That's something that takes a year to 2 years to happen throughout the Asian markets, and it's incredibly
Well, the corollary to that is what's going to happen here in Canada when the mortgages that were taken out during the early 2020s are going to be coming due. And that means increased interest rates and whatnot. And the commentator on that video figured that a lot of people are going to lose their homes in about 18 months. That should all start to unwind.
Yep. And I see that. Go ahead, Maureen.
Oh, no, and I was just wondering about your mortgages. Like we have the 5-year fixed, and then it goes to adjustable after that. Is that what you're referring to? Or is it when you say their mortgages 2020, that gives us like 6 years? Is that what the length of your mortgages, or what's?
Yeah, they do tend to have a 5-year renewal period over a 30-year amortization. So yeah, these 5-year mortgages are coming due. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if the scenario was very similar to the movie The Big Short, where people have mortgages, have houses that they have no business having. And I'm thinking of the newcomers, the immigrants, the refugees, the invaders coming into Canada, being given all kinds of services and funds, buying houses and not being able to afford them. I have
they're being given subsidies, government subsidies, to pay for these places that they can no longer afford now.
I have my former landlord and a former client, both born on the African continent, came to the country and good jobs, and they have multiple properties. It's like, whoa, I wonder how they're going to be affected by something like this.
Mm-hmm. Silver dipping down. You see it actually looking like it's going to break out of this pattern. We'll see what happens in the next couple of days, but it could very well just be coming down to test this old pivot point here. testing that pivot point would not be out of the question. So it's not really cause for a call yet saying it's going to go down, but it is below that wedge. Gold also coming back down to test this old support. And that was just formed back at the beginning of April. Gold silver ratio still consolidating, rising up actually this last week, settling around 62.5 ounces. Bitcoin dominance taking a little bit of a retracement.
What can you go back to the gold silver?
Yeah.
What was it in that dip where it was down lower? How far did it go? I mean, maybe not the very bottom one, but like that where it's consolidating there. What was that at?
Yeah, that was 46.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So technically, against silver, gold is 36% up.
Right.
Well, just review too, look at that climb, not that candle. Yeah, when did that occur?
That was right at the end of January where it was consolidating, and it shot up in 9 days. Actually, it was shorter than that. It actually rose from there to there. That was 7 days, went up 43%.
What was the impetus for that, Paul? If we can remember. I'm trying to remember.
Oh, well, this coincided with the correction, the price correction from silver and gold reaching all-time highs.
Yeah.
So we go and look at gold, how it rose. It went all the way up end of January, and then it started to whiplash.
Yeah.
And so during this time is when we saw the gold and silver ratio start to come back to a less, we call it a retracement, because whenever there's a very sharp move somewhere, we see a reaction in the market, and it comes out to settle itself out.
Zoe, you don't know your mic is on.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
And so yes, this volatility coincided with that correction between gold and silver. And I say correction not to say that this is where it ought to be, but that after this long trend, it is normal to see a retracement where it settles back out for a little while. Typically speaking, though, that is the indicator of the start of a trend. And so this retracement is simply consolidating, finding, that as that energy concentration narrows down, it will end up having another impulse in some direction. And typically when we see this kind of thing, it hasn't been here for a long time. We're going to zoom right out to the weekly chart so we can see what was the ratio. When last time the ratio was this low was in September 2011. So that is a long time to have an upward trend. That sudden movement calls for a correction where it's going to even out for a little bit.
That was good to go back to the 2011 because I remember what happened then. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So Bitcoin dominance. I'm just going to mute you, Maureen. Go ahead and unmute whenever you're ready. And Bitcoin dominance, we have a little bit of a retracement. Similarly, this is another movement where it goes up, and that's a little bit further of a movement than normal. And so now we're seeing a retracement, a retraction. Bitcoin actually showing a similar price action. Now, typically speaking, this does occur. When we see Bitcoin dominance rise, it is going with an increase in demand, and that makes sense. But what we've seen here over this same period of time between the dominance and the price, very different. That dominance has been staying fairly consistent since September of 2025, but the price since the same time has dropped significantly. So that means more and more money has actually been leaving cryptos. Same thing we see. This is reflected in the other coins, everything but Bitcoin and Ethereum. In fact, that's a retraction from the altcoin market. That's a retraction of 37%. Ethereum also a retraction in price value, 52% from the highs that were there in August. ADA still bouncing off these old, this market structure, level C. Very crucial point. It is not outside of the character, especially of cryptocurrencies, for us to see a quick dip to come back up again. And I would not be surprised if that happens. It might be difficult to catch that dip, to time it, unless you're setting up pending orders. But that the possibility of it to dip down one more time to jump back up again so as to not create a trend would not break market structure. I would say, though, that if we drop down and we come back to retest this pivot point and it provides enough resistance, that we will likely go down to the next market structure, which is highlighted here in this thicker bar. That's at the 1617.
Have we reviewed Bitcoin yet? I missed it.
Yeah, well, let's go over it a little bit more.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Bitcoin is actually bouncing off of its market structure quite healthily, in fact, creating new highs ever since. So that is an encouraging prospect for Bitcoin, but it is also at a very crucial, we have this circled from before because this is a very high volume area. And so this is resistance. This area here that we're at right now very well may press the price down further. However, and this is where it's all about the technical analysis, if we zoom in, we can see on the 4-hour chart, we broke out of that long-term trend all the way from, this was from October 2025 when it was bouncing off the all-time highs. That trend line was providing quite a bit of resistance. In fact, after it fell down and tried to attempt it here, it fell down even sharper the second time to create that C. But since then, climbing upwards, we actually broke out of that trend line and already looking like we may be finding the top side of that trend line as support. The rest of the week will definitely reveal much.
What is it selling at now, Paul? I can't see. It's too little.
Oh, currently at 76,000 US. Also, we can look at what does it cost in gold. And it has gotten to be more expensive in gold since the low in February 2026. It's worth 35% more gold than it was then. And that to me is actually interesting, because if we take the price, it's only 16% much more in US dollars. So when we look at, okay, over this period of time, the US dollar has gone up in value because of the, we've been seeing a rise in the Dow Jones, but it doesn't keep up with gold, because gold ends up, or rather gold is not keeping up with the dollar. Gold gets more expensive as that time goes on. So this to me says to me that Bitcoin is actually appreciating against gold at a better rate. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? Does it mean anything? Well, I think that it's a sign of things to come. Gold is being transitioned. Bitcoin is becoming the digital gold. And I believe that we will see the transition from metals go into digital currencies primarily, simply because the whole world is going to a metaverse. Everything's going digital. So this is where the money's going to be, because this is where people's money is already pouring into this. The Genius Act paved the way for more people to put their money into Bitcoin. Legally, of course. So ADA is now resting on level C. That good old market structure. Midnight is creating all-time lows here. That trend line has provided enough resistance that it's starting to stray. XRP holding out, consolidating, similar time frame as ADA. Looking at BitTensor, we saw this rise, this circled area here. I circled that back. This was when NVIDIA and BitTensor signed a deal. Fetch, looking like it's found some support off of these old lines here, this pivot point. We'll see how it lasts throughout the rest of this week. Polygon still trending downwards, up a little bit from the low on April 12th. Desync finding support right now at its all-time lows. 1.3 cents. Oh, wow. Clearpool, this one here is a real-world asset provider. This one here is going to be kind of the barometer to see where we are in the timing of the tokenization of our monthly bills, because those are real assets, real world assets to, say, for instance, your cell phone bill or your water bill or internet, you name it. The monthly bills that you have are being tokenized. Even all your mortgage payments, those are tokenized. And that Clearpool provides the means by which people can claim those as real-world assets, which then become a leverageable asset that you can take finance. So you can finance things, take out loans, and all that good stuff.
Could you go into a little bit more of a description of that, Paul, and how it would apply? Like, say, if I implemented the service they provided, what would I be doing? I'd be using their ledger to pay bills, like on from my computer, from my bank account, or how would that look?
That's a good question. This would be the way that it's being implemented right now. Is that people get what's called decentralized physical infrastructure. We've talked a little bit about that, DPIN for short. And what that is people are buying hard assets. We talked about this yesterday for Metal Mondays, was that the big tech companies, they're investing in metal too, gold and silver, but the metal of the data centers. Well, that's infrastructure. It's a real world asset. And so right now we're seeing people use Clearpool in tokenizing the real world asset of their node. Say, for instance, if they have a node that is providing a decentralized infrastructure for, say, cloud computing, that compute that they're using, the energy consumption is tokenized, and people can use that tokenization. The owner of that asset can tokenize the services that he's providing. And so that's where we see Clearpool being used today. But the reason why we're watching the chart is because when we see this take off and we see this, I would say once it gets above this zone here, that's when we'll have a good idea of when the big companies, like for instance your monthly payments, are going to start utilizing the same technology to turn their subscribers, their asset, into a real world asset. And they'll use this same type of protocol to tokenize their assets so that, now it's like these people are worth X number of tokens because they pay their bill every month. Does that help?
I'll
Okay.
probably get it little by little. You know how that is. Drop
Yeah.
by. I'll get more familiar with the implementation and what the coin represents, and is it a good purchase, and does it serve the world? Does it serve us and the world
Right.
in a good way? So that's kind of and my use of it would be the concretization of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, the conversation is ongoing, always. I'm still learning things. I come across things all the time where I'm just clueless. Beam we follow because this one here gives us an indication of where the gaming industry is, video gaming. Superverse, same idea. And then in the meme world, which still I'm of the belief that the memes are going to lead this next season. I don't know if they'll do the best, but they'll definitely be leading the season in the accumulation of capitalization. People are going to be starting here. And the reason why is because the crypto space, or what they call the crypto sphere, has become more and more decentralized as more and more communities are forming little niche houses of virtue, I would call it, or value, where they have a specific mission or a vision. And when they believe in something wholeheartedly, they are able to attract more resources because there's an attraction to the values that they uphold. And that is where we're seeing a lot of the money stay. As we're seeing a decline in prices, yes. But with like SPX, I go back to this one frequently simply because while the market capitalization is down, the number of people who hold large amounts has not dropped. And in fact, this one here, out of all of the meme coins, has the highest number of people with more than $1,000 worth in their wallet. So as the price is going down, they're still buying, keeping their balance above $1,000 US. And that's just the way this community sets themselves up. They don't have any monetary benefit other than the price of the coin and the fulfillment of their vision. And that is why I believe we're going to see the meme coins lead the way through this next phase, simply because that's where the digital sphere has, and the crypto sphere has evolved to. More decentralization, more communities. And I think that's it. We saw the big tech companies, they had their recent big push, sometimes even reaching all-time highs again. Oops. Amazon, Oracle still lagging, Palantir still lagging, but Nvidia, Google, and Amazon all coming back up to test those all-time highs. Any questions, comments?
You just mentioning, Google, Amazon, and all that. Will they join crypto? How would they join crypto? How would they join this digital platform, or have they already?
Oh, that's why we watch BitTensor. That chart there, this asset, BitTensor, is think the fake decentralization of data. Their mission, their goal, and who they provide services to, decentralized services, are the centralized data centers. So, for instance, Meta, Google, OpenAI, Microsoft, a lot of those companies, they're not using BitTensor right now, but they are all of them going to be using BitTensor. And so we're going to see these companies bridge themselves over into crypto like an overnight, just a big launch. We're all doing it now. That's how that's going to be orchestrated. And so, yeah, this is going to be a great big bucket of resources. And the reason we know this is because, first off, we figure out, oh, no, this is owned by BlackRock. But when things like this start, when decentralized options are on the table, they don't start day one with $3 billion. $3 billion doesn't come out of nowhere. That's something that if you are valuing, the decentralization and the nature of blockchain, you're going to start from the ground and you're going to build from zero. You might have investors who end up having shares, but you're definitely starting from a very, very, a much far more humble beginning than $3 billion day one. $3 billion is somebody saying, I better put and doing it, 23. That's a big company saying, we better get started with this integration and get our everything in order. It was only, I think, May of last year. It was early May. They actually started in this area their own exchange. But of course, it's not going to be an exchange for people to trade currencies. No. It's an exchange for all of the companies who are using their service to exchange data.
Mm. So that's how BitTensor is going to be used. And so if I wanted to give a gift to my grandson, would I give him some BitTensor?
Well, it would be very easy for him to exchange it, yes.
Would it be something that would grow in value, though?
Yes, I believe that BitTensor is going to greatly outperform the other cloud computing projects that are out there. If you wanted to diversify, give them a gift of see, for me, I don't value. I recognize that they have value and that they will increase in value, but I don't watch the chart because I'm interested in buying the asset. It's kind of like XRP. I can't stand for something that wants to partner up with banks, right? Similar thing. I don't want these guys partnering up with the data centers that are drinking the lakes dry. I would like to see companies provide a similar service, a similar infrastructure, but with the values that I share. Like, for instance,
thank you for saying that, Paul. I just want to say thank you, because right there, that's the important, switch over for me as well.
Yes, you're very welcome. I'm happy to, and again, I have been telling people, look, I know that if you want to make some money, I'm not going to judge you for getting in on BitTensor. That's the truth. I'm not going that direction only because I'm more interested in the little guys like Desync. That's all. Now, this is a higher risk because a lot more can go wrong with these kinds of companies. Because they're small.
yeah.
These are the small guys.
What's important though is what you're saying is what is providing the good for the world, the people, and the environment, and all of that. What is doing that? That's what I want to invest in. But for a minute, I got greedy, so I just wanted to say that. So thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. And again, there's a higher risk to this play. And here is where I suggest if people go down this pathway, that they diversify across several different companies that are providing the same service with those values. Because there's more than one. And chances are one of them will work out and it will outperform the others. I lean towards Desync because I know who their marketing team is. And that's one of the best you can possibly get for digital marketing. And so that's why I'm having more of an interest in Desync.
And the criteria for best is that it's good for us, all of us.
Yeah, that it allows us more governance over our data. I started playing around a little bit with Midnight. I want to just come back to that. I started playing around with Midnight here in the last couple of days. I have a little more exploring to do, a couple checks to make for myself. But there is a video where one of the co-founders for Midnight was doing a tutorial similar to how I do tutorials. Oh, you go and click over here and click over there, and then you'll see this menu there, and you want to select that button, whatever. He was showing people how they could encrypt their Google Drive. That's a significant step where now even Google can't see the contents in their Google Drive.
Oh, can you show us how to do that, Paul?
I'm very skeptical. I'm very skeptical, but yes, I will be sharing for sure once I know how it works. And then I will also be looking at multiplying that and showing people how to create. The idea behind it is that you are creating your own digital identifier. That's the end result. That you have control over the identifier you use to access the data. That's the power. What we've been chatting about for the last year and a half, 2 years, some of us, is this idea of creating a trust where you're the trustee. And that you have trusteeship over the citizenship. That way you can have trusteeship over the fiat currency that goes in and out of the account for the citizen. So there's no taxable event. Now, here's where we're going, though. We're going into a digital realm. I'm not liking it. I don't agree with it, but I just simply recognize that that's the inevitable result of networking all these computers together. Now we're building a whole new version of the printing press that's automated. It's called LLMs, language learning models. It's just it's a self-configurable typeset of a printing press that can fit in a pocket. That's all it is. So therefore, since that's where all the information is, that's where the money is, because knowledge is power. Yes, Maureen, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, Ron taught printing press, the old printing, lineotype and all of that. Yep. He would love this analogy. So I'm going to that you guys talk about that.
A self-configurable typeset. Yeah. Yes. And it's always recursively learning how to typeset with more accuracy. That's the mind-blowing thing.
Could you
But
just
as
talk a little
such,
bit about that? Could you talk a little bit about how it's like self-correcting in a way, or is it self-evolving? Or when you say
yeah,
that,
so every time there's an output, the machine itself that is creating the output gets feedback from the user as to whether or not the output was good. And as all of us are creating input and providing input, we are recursively providing a context for the machines to become better at fulfilling our requests, to creating more accurate output.
so that means that it's useful. Is good useful in my life?
I
Is
would
that
say that it's useful to have a machine that gets better at serving you. Yes.
through your own feedback? So through your own unique feedback, it would get, it would
mirror you, actually.
yeah, mirror. That's a good word.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason why I'm passionate about what I'm doing and the reason why I spend a lot of time at the computer is because I recognize that we, all of us, if we're going to be going into this world, and we cannot stop this from happening. This is something that has been unleashed upon the world and growing since the 90s. And because there's nothing we can do about it, my intention is not to fight that system. My intention is to simply provide people with the knowledge on being a trustee of the asset. And one of your fiduciary responsibilities is to privatize that asset. And so, yes, once I have completed these runs on testing Midnight, and I can see evidence that, yes, in fact, my Google Drive, I've got 3 Google Drives, 3 different identifiers. They all have different purposes and they all have different types of data in them. If I can see that they become encrypted, end-to-end encrypted, meaning that not even Google could go look at my Google Drive, that's when I know we have reached a whole new level of service for mankind. I want to thank everybody for coming today. You know, I always wonder to myself whether or not I should even bother with the charts, but they do provide a bedrock for a powerful conversation.
Well, and to become familiar with the language of that world, I think is really good. And then we put it in the context of, of sovereignty and privacy, then it has a whole new impact on the world when we do that. I really appreciate that, Paul, very much.
Well, the other thing, excuse me, that's happening in that market analysis is there's some deconstruction going on. It's always in there, where you're going, okay, this is what's being said. This is the market responding to what's being said, the propaganda. But here's some things underlying it that actually make a very different picture. So I don't feel that you're just saying, oh, the Dow Jones is, like I can hear on NPR, the market, oh, this is up, you're doing way more than that. This is part of that ongoing deprogramming, really.
I love that, Zoa. Thanks for mentioning that.
I feel it when I'm hearing this. And part of it, this is new to me. So it's not even like, but you're not just doing the market. It's like the world things that are leading into it. And like, things are not what they seem.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it is getting news from the world in a like a concrete way of their economic report. Do you know what I mean? What's really happening there? It shows it has a different language and shows a different disposition of what's happening. And when is it time to do our Four Eyes potato group?
Yeah, I'm thinking now. Let's go ahead and end the stream here, and thanks everybody again. Bye, and we're off.